Hey guys and gals, it's Mr. Dan Rocket, and today we're going to be reviewing The Suicide Squad. Wait a minute, you're going to be reviewing the new Suicide Squad, but you haven't reviewed the previous Suicide Squad? Yeah, I am going to be taking a look at some of my thoughts on the previous Suicide Squad, but yeah, we're probably going to do it some other time. What are we? Some kind of Super Dan Rocket? Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it.
3, 2, 1.
Ready for liftoff, Super Dan Rocket. Get ready for it. So of course we're going to start off with a non-spoiler review, and then we're going to go on to some spoilers. So to start off the non-spoiler review, of course I want to talk a bit about my thoughts on the original Suicide Squad back in 2016, the theatrical cut. I do found that movie a very fun ride, but I do feel like they kind of played it a little too safe with the characters and the storyline. I do feel like with something called the Suicide Squad, I do feel like they could have done something more with it back in 2016. And I do feel like this movie kind of rectifies that issue in a way. In this movie, you actually get to see a lot more daring ideas being put into the film, and I think it was actually a pretty good idea. And I also really like how this movie actually gives the Suicide Squad a much more better identity than in the previous one. In the previous one, it's kind of like I guess you can say an edgy version of Guardians of the Galaxy, which is funny considering this new movie is directed by the same guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, yet it has a totally different style. Yeah, sure, you can see some bits and pieces of James Gunn's previous work, but overall it's a very nice, fresh, great identity for the Suicide Squad. Of course, there are some times in the film where you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, why in the world did they do that and stuff like that? But you have to take in mind that these are actually villains that are kind of the main role in this. So of course, when something kind of cruel happens in the film, it kind of makes sense since, you know, they're villains, and you never really get to see much of that in the previous movie. It's just, oh, we're bad guys, that's what we do, and that's all that they do. So yeah, but I feel like they do emphasize that your main characters are villains, and they are showing how villains roll in the movie, which is nice. I really like that as well. And of course, you cannot get too attached to some of these characters because, of course, there are people who are going to die. It's already been advertised to you that there are people who are going to be killed in this movie, which I mean is also something that kind of makes sense since, you know, this is the Suicide Squad. Of course, you cannot really go into this not expecting somebody to get killed. In the previous film, not many people died, and here, yeah, you're gonna see some carnage happening, some real carnage. So yeah, this movie can be very brutal at times, but it is honestly pretty fun, and I think it really fits with the Suicide Squad more than what they did in the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad 2016. I'd have to emphasize that because I do know there are some people who are saying that there is an actual David Ayer 2016 cut somewhere lurking in the shadows that we're probably gonna see maybe sometime in the future, who knows. We got the Snyder cut, so anything's possible. But overall, I do think this direction for the Suicide Squad is a great direction, and I think a lot of people are really going to get a kick out of this brand new Suicide Squad. So if you haven't already, go check it out. So on with this non-spoilers. Spoilers. I messed it up, didn't I? Ah well, screw it. I know I've been comparing this version of the Suicide Squad with the other version of the Suicide Squad, the 2016 one, but it is kind of easy to compare the two considering they follow similar beats, but I kind of feel like this movie does them a lot more better, such as demonstrating if you disobey orders, you'll get killed. We actually get to see that character who gets killed at the end, in the beginning of the film, all the way to his death, and they did tell a fun little story where he killed the bird at the beginning, and then at the end when he actually gets killed, another bird goes and feed on the remains of him. Funny enough, in a ball, I guess you can say, which is really funny. And I do really like how they improved the character of Rick Flag. Of course, he was in the previous film, and of course, the same thing with Amanda Waller. I kind of feel like they managed to showcase who these characters are much more better in this film. I also really like the replacement for Deadshot being Bloodsport. Of course, he has the whole story of him having a daughter. They didn't really showcase it that much, but I do really like that, you know, you do see him actually is a villain, despite of him being a father. Kind of, it's a very interesting idea for them to tackle, even though it's only a bit. And yeah, I also really like how they, showcase Harley Quinn in this, because, of course, a lot of people were gonna be seeing this just because of Harley Quinn. So, of course, they do have to give her some screen time, and I do feel like they managed to integrate it in the film properly in this, which I really like. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you might have remembered from the previous film being done again in this film, but a lot more better. They even managed to improve the whole scenario that they have in the original movie, where it's like, oh, the organization that the villains work for isn't as righteous as they're meant to be, kind of thing. They were trying to do it in the original, but they didn't really go, I guess, full throttle with that idea. Who knows in the Ayer cut, but yeah, in this film they did manage to do it a lot more better and actually add Rick Flag into the scenario pretty well here and made it meaningful when, he actually dies. So yeah, and of course, yeah, there are some people in this film that kind of get killed off like immediately, even though, yeah, they did have some potential. Even ones from the previous movie, like Captain Boomerang, he just immediately gets killed off at the beginning. They just gave him a simple cameo. It's a bit sad, to be honest with you. He never got his revenge for, Flash pushing him and running away. Yeah, I made that reference. I'm sorry, but yeah, poor Boomer. Yeah, modern day kind of ruined that name, didn't it? Although I wasn't too sad with a lot of the deaths. First of all, of course, I was expecting it. They really advertise it in the promotional material that don't get too attached with these characters, they're gonna die, who knows. But I do feel like they managed to have these characters fulfill their purposes before killing them off prematurely, I guess you can say. I mean, yeah, sure, there are some that are just made for last, like, the detachable kid, that's just a funny character to decide to put at the beginning. It doesn't really have that much purpose, it's just for fun. But for the characters who do have some kind of character arc, they managed to fulfill their character arc before getting killed off. Something like Polka Dot Man is a good example of this. He managed to achieve happiness before, getting crushed by Starro. So I think they handled the whole thing of killing characters off pretty well. I also really like what they did with the coloring and the lighting of this film. All the colors really pop, but they managed to make it a little like gritty, I guess, because even though this is kind of a funny movie in a way, it's also pretty, dark and gruesome, of course, with all the brutalities and stuff. So I do feel like the coloring and lighting really reflect that well. And it did have a bit of the whole retro action movie style in it. They didn't go full force with it, but it is somewhere in there, like in the opening credits, which I do feel like also reflects the movie pretty well as well. Yeah, combo there. But yeah, I do really like what they were trying to do with this version of the Suicide Squad. I'm really glad that the Suicide Squad got a second chance to shine, because of course, I do really feel like the Suicide Squad had a lot of potential of being a pretty cool idea for a movie, and the original Suicide Squad, the theatrical cut at least, didn't really do it for me. But I feel like this movie definitely achieves that pretty well, and I'm really happy for that. And I'm pretty much done with my opinions on the film. I'm surprised how fast I managed to record this. I started in 1:15 and now it's only like 1:45. But anyways, I'm not really done yet because actually captured the Interrupter, my arch nemesis, trying to ruin this review. But luckily, I managed to hold him hostage, and I said to him that the only way for him to be free is to relay his thoughts on this movie, because I thought it'd be fun to, see a villain's perspective on a villain-based movie. So take it away, Interrupter. All right, you're up. Say your opinions. It's good. Is that good? We're good. All right, you're good. Oh, good. Okay, good. So until then, guys, rock it on.